Greetings, fans of Flames of War and Team Yankee. My name's Joe Lewis. I'm with BattleRankings.com. Today I'm going to do something I want to have done for a long time, which is go over about how to make a good table. I kind of consider myself a table snob. I'm not a snob on most things. Table's one of them, and pizza's the other. So, I lived in Chicago and New York City, so I know what a good pizza is. But anyway, that's besides the point. So what I have here is a bunch of terrain that I own. I own a lot more than this, but I'm just for this purpose what I've done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin off telling you what I got here, and then we'll just go from there. So the table itself is the inside. The inside is 4x6. This is from a company called Table Toppers. They make tabletops that sit on your top of tables. That makes sense. And this happens to be on my kitchen table, and my wife is very understanding. So so there's that. The mat came from the company. Also, I got plenty different mats. I got a red mat that we use when we play D&D or whatever you want, and I got a cyberspace mat, and this green mat, which I'm using today for to show off Flames of War. I also do own other mats from Battlefront and a couple other companies. Cigar something is another mat I own. But all the buildings here are from Battlefront. I got, a bunch of years ago they did a sale on their different buildings, and I went into real estate and bought these different buildings. The one thing about, since it is a Flames of War table, the buildings are made for the game. How many stands fit inside the building. The buildings come off. Same thing with the specialty shop buildings. So I got a couple of I brought out a couple of the houses. The mansion, one of the mansions. A factory. I have a whole bunch of factories. There's this shop building, which is the weird one. It actually comes with some items for awnings that I've never glued on. Got a train station. The church is one of the things I've owned for a while. In fact, the depot here is damaged. But anyway, so I take this church a lot to different tournaments. Also got different types of terrain, like this piece here, which is the cobblestone. I think this was a special offer that they have, but I think you could buy it now. What else I got? Oh, I got all these. I have various walls. These things that are added to the buildings. You can put them. I add there. Of course, I like to match the colors of the building as if I was on the house. I got the things like fountains and obelisks and other stuff. Plenty of roads, cobble roads, railroads, dirt roads, dirt to cobble roads, corners. Basically a lot of that. I have hedges. These are the hedges. They're not the bocage hedges that are coming out. And then this is what Battlefront sends for trees. I use the Battlefront trees. I cannot talk highly enough about these trees, because the way they're made is that when you're doing a tournament and you're going to take stuff to the tournament, you could just throw it in there, and their survivability is awesome. And these have been tossed around now, but the thing is, they come on this, which is okay if you're doing flat, but what I prefer is that I have hills, And if I want to put a terrain on the hill, something like that, I just went out and bought some green fabric and cut it. And that's what I use for trees. Kind of a note about some of this stuff is that I think they fixed it, but the backing of these things used to get sticky, and you could see there how some of this stuff is tore off because it's stuck to something else. And if you're not careful, it does break. I'm not too sure what this thing's made of, but if you get it warm enough, it bends. You get it cold enough, it cracks. So anyway, I found that. You're gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a special guest in. That's you, Ray. This is my son, Ray. Come on, Ray. Say hello.
Hi.
Ray is, I talked to him and I said, Ray, I have a job for you to do. I want you to set up a table. And then I'm going to critique it.
But we already have a table set up. It's
No,
right
no.
Here.
Anyway, somehow I became the straight man. Anyway, so what we're going to do is he's going to put this table down and we'll record it. And then when we come back, we'll critique it. And we'll talk about the pros and cons of the table he did. And we'll go from there. You ready?
Okay.
I mean, you're not nervous or anything, are you?
No.
I mean, you're just, in front of tens of people putting together a table.
Oh, it's just 10 people.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll be right back. Hey, Ray. As we're about to begin here, how many times have you played Flames of War?
2 times.
Maybe 3. So, but you have played, so you have a little bit of knowledge, and you have seen tables in the past.
I have.
All right, and you ready?
Yeah.
And go. Okay, you're done?
Yeah.
This is the table?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Actually, this worked out better than I thought. First of all, I'm going to tell you things that are decent, okay? Basically, your roads are spread out. So you got a couple on this side, a couple on that side, and then running in the middle.
Yeah, what I did was I got these hills and trees here to block your view, but when you come in, you get a nice scenic view of the town. Also, you get a nice scenic view. You got these little shops here as a way of advertising. Come here, come this way.
Mm-hmm.
Got a nice well, got a nice town square with a train station in the middle. Got nice railways that go either way. Gotta be realistic here.
Mm-hmm.
And we got hedges to make sure nobody runs up
Oh, so
Also
the
nice.
hedges are there as a safety precaution?
Yes, and it also looks nice.
Okay.
And then we come here, got the housing area and the shops up there, we got this area. I like to think of this as a school, we got the church, we got this industrial thing.
Mm-hmm.
And from this intersection, which there was a transition piece here, but bigger structure just. And then it splits that way and that way. Yeah, pretty cool. So I like to imagine that one or maybe two of these people are like this guy's a farmer and this is his field.
Oh, so you put a little door there for him?
Yeah, put a little door for him.
Okay.
And maybe these people have a dog, or maybe they like to mow the lawn a lot.
Oh, he's proud of his yard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I can see that. Let me tell you what is interesting, and you pretty much do the same thing that a lot of people do to their tables, which is, first of all, the line of sight is totally blocked by these row houses.
Okay.
Okay, which is a left-right, from we'll call this north-south, right? This north-south direction is completely blocked off by these row houses. You did do something that a lot of people do. Is the table is a square or a rectangle, right? And what happens is everyone plays along those edges. Matter of fact, you were fiddling for a long time because you wanted this straight, right? Why did you want that straight? Because you were matching this edge, right? Well, we don't live in worlds where we're in a rectangle. Also, when we take a look at our game, if you take a look at various missions, the objectives either go here or in these kind of blocks. You got to take a look where objectives go in the various different games. Games that are played this way, they're in the 8-inch bubble here, or they're sometimes they're in the 16-inch here, Gesundheit. And so you weren't thinking about it. You were just thinking about throwing some terrain down that looks neat, right? The other thing is that European town, because it's in like World War II, most of it, or World War III, which would theoretically be fought if this is Europe. The center of the town is the church.
Oh.
Yeah. You know where the center of town is because that's where the church is.
Mm.
Well, the old town, right? And over time, it's really expanded out. But where's their cathedral, right?
Mm.
You know where it's at. Where's Notre Dame in France? It's pretty much in the center of town. So with that, also another thing that you did, which is very frustrating for players, is that you have you put an obstacle. So the players will go, well, what kind of railroad track is that? And unless they say flat, sometimes they'll roll a die and they could say that is short terrain. So it's a cross check. So the first hedge is a cross check, the railroad track's a cross check, the next hedge is a cross check. So vehicles.
I didn't know those existed.
Yeah, and a lot of people, a lot of people don't think about that when they put it down. You were thinking, hey, I put this down because that's what it looks like, and frankly, in the real world, you'd be putting hedges down as noise absorption, right? That is not unusual to see that. Just unfortunately, in a game, it's it's not fun because if I was defending, say, in Encounters a mission, right, I would choose this side Because I could run, take these houses up, move my vehicles up, no problem. Meanwhile, that guy back there, what's he going to take? Maybe the railroad and try to get to here? But his vehicles are going to have to go around.
There needs to be destroyed hedge props.
A destroyed hedge.
Hedge.
Well, actually, a destroyed hedge would be no hedge. See, the thing about this is that you're supposed to look at the table and immediately know what the piece is and how to interact with it in the game. Another thing you did, which a lot of people do, is what was your thought about the trees on top of the hill?
Well,
So,
trees.
is this supposed to be the forest, or is the whole hill supposed to be the forest?
I was thinking this would be the whole forest, even though it's like 4 trees, but like these are like little,
Step this way and talk.
there's like little trees here. Like they're like little trees. They're sticking out on this hill. So this is not a forest. This is a forest.
Okay, so you're just doing this for aesthetics?
Yes.
Okay. The one thing about this game is, not that you knew this, there is no such thing as aesthetics. You know, we're not doing model railroading, right? So the thing is that someone would look at this and they would actually spend maybe 2-3 minutes just to go, all right, what the heck is this? And most people, what they'll do is go, well, screw it, we'll just do that, and that's all the forest. Or they'll say, the entire hill is all forest. They'll have a discussion about it. If you could remove all anyway, remove all doubt about what it is.
Ambiguity.
Ambiguity. Thank you.
Ambiguity.
Yes, if you can remove that, just out of there. In fact, that's what I do. I don't even use the word. I just remove it. I don't want anyone to know that it existed. Blah, blah, blah. If you remove that, then people could go, oh, I know what's going on with that hill or that hill. Because the thing is, you did this for that hill. What about that hill? Did someone move trees off that hill and put it over there? You know. Anyway, I know we joked earlier about using lots of trees. You know, Battlefront does this with their tables. If they have a forest, they'll just put a crap load of trees on it. I mean, so many of them, and you spend most of the game. You spend half the game just moving the trees off the table because all you need is that's my boundary, that's a tree. I can use my imagination, and I'm playing the game. That way, for players, you don't have to invest that much in trees because this is perfect. Yeah, we just bought this. This is perfect. Boom. What is that? Well, that's a forest. Yeah. Another thing is you're not too far off about this because farmers actually lived in the town and would go out to the field to farm, and at night would come back to the pub. I don't know, want to use the pub. That's an interesting thing that you thought this was a school. Mm-hmm. The thing is now you put a lot right here in the center. And I've seen this like with people like using walls or putting walls up in the center and then like nothing on the left and right. Just wide open, right? Because like I said, we were playing games this way or match this way. If I put an objective here, right, there's a lot of things I could put Overwatch on this. And trying to get to is like impossible.
So are you going to move things around to show them where you put them?
I am going to move things around and use exactly what you have here. I'm not going to grab anything else. I'm going to use exactly what you have here. Ta-da! Well, Ray, what do you think?
I think it actually looks a little bit better than mine, but what's with all these changes you made here?
Well, if you remember from yesterday when we filmed, and it's a new day, we were talking about how you had that one line of row of buildings, so I broke that up. I was looking to break up obstacles so you didn't have multiple in a row. Also, I broke up the terrain. And so let me point out some of the things I did do. I took the hedges and put them around the fields because this is supposed to be Europe, so that's the way they were doing fields. They would put hedges around them to either keep in or out animals.
Doesn't this count as cover?
It does. So does the. It's all short terrain. That's how I would play it. But to go over this as a cross check, to go around it, and then. But I put gaps between things. That's where to kind of show where the farmers would get in and out of the field. Sometimes a lot of times they put gates there and stuff like that, but we're not representing that. But I broke that up. Also, I talked about how the church is the center of town. On the other side of the church, you can't see it from this angle, but I will move the camera. I put walls. I won't put walls over there behind it to form like the graveyard. I put the buildings around, kind of like here's the square. It is where the fountain is. There's the fountain piece. That's almost dead center of the table. I put some buildings around the center of the square. One of the things I was looking at, I wanted to put this building. So this building is at a 45-degree angle to the square itself, and we got the idea of actually. Remember the broken piece that I had? Well, I actually cut it a 45-degree angle off of it, and I was able to put that in the cobblestone. That was Ray's idea. Good idea. Kudos.
It was?
It was. Yeah, you came up with it. Yeah, see? The other thing, too, I note, you were running perpendicular with the table edges, right? Here, it's a skewed off about, about 30 to 45 degree angle. I still have the roads that come into town because, in Europe, you have all these roads coming to the center of a town. I skewed it. Now, the thing, what it does do is, I'll take some pictures going this way. There is a wall formed this way if you're looking this way. But as soon as you go off to this side or the side, you can get there's gaps in there. And that's where you want some action going through. And it can pop in around corners or that kind of stuff. Actually using the cover or duck and char, if there was a tank battle going on or something like that, you can use the different angles and stuff like that. And that makes for an exciting game. Instead of having this giant wall that people are just going to go around and shoot. That way you can have this action happen in the town. Does that kind of make sense? The other thing too is I took the railroad and put it on the side because if you remember I was making a reference to that. Basically your church is in the center, the town's around it, and then as technology happened, things grew outside of the town. So you had your railroad depot, which is I just put on the right side of town. Of course, when this came through, it dropped the property values of some buildings. And the other thing about having the railroad coming through here, it doesn't split the table, but it's still here. So if people decided it was going to be short terrain, and then you had to go across it, if you're playing a game this way, I could push for the objective over there if I don't want to deal with it. Or I could start my force on this side and push for an objective that side if you're going north-south. But if you're going east-west, right, say like rear guard or something like that, I could have, I could have an option to put an objective over here, or I could put one over here, which is, I don't have to deal with the railroad track. So now as a player, I have options about dealing with the railroad track. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, do you know what piece of terrain that I don't own?
Snow?
No, it's not snow. It's a weather condition, I think. Water, rivers. I don't own rivers. Okay.
Why do you not own rivers?
Well, I'm not going to tell you about that because one of the things about putting a river down, why rivers are a major anchor for any town. If you look at any big or any decent sized city, you always say there's a river. It's either built on a body of water or near water because water provides transportation, drinkable water, crops, for crops and your livestock, and water is an essential source of life. And many, many battles have been fought around water. Either you want to take a bridge or blow up the bridge to stop them going across. They're natural barriers. The thing is that in a scenario game, it's awesome because you're playing out a scenario. Like say Pegasus Bridge or Remagen or something like one of those, or even if you're doing a scenario for Market Guard, like one of the bridges too far. Okay. But in a 2.5 hour tournament, putting a major obstacle in the way, and when you get with that 3-inch wide river, people are going to say that it's not crossable, it's impassable. Well, all of a sudden, and a lot of people just throw it right down the middle of the board. So you just made an impassable terrain, and so the defender, whoever is lucky to defend, saying, okay, hey, try to get across that river, right? All you got to do is throw the minefields on the bridges, and you're spending hours. You're spending at least an hour just trying to get across the river, and so you're actually fighting the board, not your opponent. So the idea is that you want to get the games going and people rolling dice and blowing things up, because that's why people came to play the game. So I don't own the rivers for that particular reason. I don't want to put it down because my tables are really for to play and get things going. But if I was doing a scenario and I had a river and I wanted to take it, so that's what you have there and it'd be appropriate. What else we got going here? So the railroads, there's a factory. I put the factory over here. Actually put a side road, and I also put the paved road going by it. Probably because they put the paved road in because there was some tax break, and that's where they say, hey, I'll put my factory here if you put the paved road in. And then they probably named the street after the factory. Hans's Bulgarian factory or something like that. What else? All the angles, the buildings are separated from each other. Hedges, gaps, the trees are clearly marked. So I put, that's what this is, if you see this is why I like to put, use the felt. You have any other questions about the table?
No, I don't think so.
So, the tips to having a good table, we'll just go over it, is the try to not be parallel to the edges. Put gaps between your buildings. I like to try to put an inch gap between the buildings. That way a Sherman or a Panzer IV can get through. If you're really vindictive, you can do it so that the bigger tanks can't. But at least a gap of an inch. The kind of make it look like, hey, this is where people lived. It's like plausible that this town actually exists. Major obstacles like this don't cut off half the board or one side of it. Give the player option if they want to deal with it or not. Hedges have gaps in them so that the vehicles can get through if they wanted to, but don't have too many gaps. Just give them a couple options if they want to go around. Another thing I did is if you especially do something like anything that has 16 inches coming in from the edge, I actually try to move my terrain back so that if I wanted to, I'm not coming out of the woods, like in places like this, or I did on this side. I purposely put the hedge back on the other side of the 16-inch mark so that I have to deal with the edge. So this side I don't have to, that side I do. And you want to balance the table. Also, if you want to take a look, hey, this is 8 inches, so 8 inches in, and so for a fair fight, see how right there, that's my 8 inches going there. Pretty much you got the same thing going there. No one really starts with the building in a fair fight. If I was doing breakthrough or something like that, the offense, if I was going to do my 8 inches by 8 inches, you're looking at one starting there, or roughly about where this building is, about roughly there, and then it's 28 and 16, and about where the factory is. That's where the starting points for the attacker would be, if you're looking at those. Matter of fact, if you're doing oh, wait a minute, rear guard. I mixed up, yeah. Rear guard's the one where you, 16 by 16 box. Also, surrounded, or whatever that mission is called now. You'd be starting in this kind of little box or that box. So you kind of could vision where things would be if you were doing various scenarios. And then sometimes you want to put the tower in someone's zone or not. Maybe you have to fight for control. That would be good. But yeah, that's it. By the way, I kind of looked at how much I paid for everything here. These buildings are about 25, 30. I know these are about 50 or 45, 50. The church is more, of course. I don't know, there's probably like $350 here. And my wife's behind camera and goes, holy crap, you spent that much? No, anyway. Yeah, she's shocked. My goal is I hope this helps you build your own table and give you some food for thought about how to craft a table. Like I said, I'm kind of a table snob. I'm not going to go out and say I'm not going to play on this table. But like I said, I'm two things. I'm a pizza snob and a table snob. And I like huh?
You have to, in order to eat pizza, you kind of need a table, don't you?
Well, no, you can actually fold the pizza like New York style and eat it on the go.
Why would you fold pizza?
Because it's a New York thing. In Chicago you can't fold pizza. It's a little messy, but that's the different kinds of pizza, and I appreciate different kinds of table. By the way, this table also would work for Team Yankee because maybe a couple more modern buildings or something like that in place of a couple others, but you pretty much still have a quaint little European town. So go ahead, post any questions you have. I'll answer them all, or do as best as I can. And I hope this helps you build better tables, and we'll see you guys out in the tournament scene. Once again, I'm Joe Lewis from BattleRankings.com, and this is my son Raymond Lewis, who has helped me out. All right. Have a good night. Say good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie. Who's Gracie?
Good night.
Also, folding pizza?
They do that in New York.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah, you got that big honking slice of pizza. You fold it in half like a sandwich, and you eat it that way so that you don't make a mess.
And you eat it on the run.
And you eat it while you're walking.
What?
Oh yeah, it's New York City.
It's in
No
New York.
one has time
Hey,
for lunch.
you were born in New York. should accept this on blind faith.
Yeah, but I was raised in Indiana. So I eat it like an Indianan man.
A Hoosier.
Hoosier.
Yeah.
I'm like, how much editing do you want me to do? Jeez. All right.
It's all the magic of post.
Yeah. We'll clean it.
Saved it in post.
We'll save it in post.